Durability testing the brand new ROG 3 gaming smartphone. Today's video is sponsored by Omaze, who I've teamed up with to give away a brand new Tesla Model S Performance and $20,000 in cash. Omaze does these massive giveaways while supporting nonprofits. In our particular case, we're supporting a nonprofit called Give Power, who uses solar power to give energy and clean water to regions who need it around the world. Celicia was the winner of the last Tesla Model X giveaway. I'll explain more at the end of the video, but you can always go to omaze.com/Jerry to donate. I'll also put a link in the description, and let's get started. The ROG Phone 3 is one of the most powerful smartphones in the world, maybe even the most powerful smartphone. And we're lucky enough to have one here on my desk to durability test. Well, we're lucky, the phone not so much. Inside the rather crazy looking box is the phone itself, tucked up into one side of the origami block. It's very reminiscent of last year's ROG Phone 2 and the year before's ROG Phone 1, each of which had a giant metallic growth on the back. It was implied that that metal was there to cool down the phone's intense processing and gaming power. Turns out though, after a teardown, that the protruding metal was actually super thin and backed with plastic, and also nowhere near touching the processor. So the metal on the old phones didn't actually do anything. The vent, however, did vent, so I'm totally fine with the new ROG 3 getting rid of that metal, since it was just for decoration. We'll take a closer look at this in just a second, but the vent hole still does exist. It'll be super interesting to take this one apart. Inside the box, we get our little external fan. We'll get a closer look at that in just a second. Also inside the box, we have... Wait for it. Apparently I'm not smart enough for this unboxing experience. Once we finally do get inside, there is a super thin plastic case, braided power cable, and thankfully a 30-watt charging brick. Charging up a massive 6,000 mAh battery is no joke. The thin black case is there more for an aesthetic fit rather than functional protection, but I'm still glad it's included. Any case is better than no case. Let's take a closer look at this cooling fan. ROG, or Republic of Gamers, is claiming that this active cooling system can drop the surface temperature of the phone by 4 degrees, which might sound kinda cool until you realize that the Black Shark Pro cooling system can drop the phone by a full 14 degrees in less than a minute, since it has that thermoelectric cooler inside. This fan, however, is just that, a fan. No heatsink, no thermoelectric cooler, it just blows. It does bring back the headphone jack, some cool RGBs, and I guess 4 degrees is still 4 degrees, but taking a closer look inside the cooler, the fan pops off its copper coils. Once I go find it again, it's surprisingly lightweight and flimsy. The little fins snap off very easily, so if over time you hear a little rattling inside of the unit, it's probably just a fan blade that decided it was done being cool. There is no heatsink or other form of cooling really, just plastic and the fan. And while it does move air outside of the phone, calling it active would be similar to calling yourself active after thumbing through Instagram for an hour. Nothing really compares to that Black Shark system we saw earlier this year. And I don't want to add insult to injury, but the fan doesn't even utilize the vent built into the phone. I could almost justify it if it was actually moving the air inside of the phone, but it's really just more of a gentle breeze for your fingers, which you'll probably need after scrolling through Instagram for an hour. Jumping into the scratch test, you already know that plastic is a level 2 or 3, glass is a 5 or 6, and sapphire is a level 8 or 9. This ROG Phone 3 is using Gorilla Glass 6, which, as we know, starts scratching at level 6 with deeper grooves at a level 7. There are dual front-firing stereo speakers. The top one is next to the 24-megapixel selfie camera, and the bottom one is at the bottom. Neither of the large plastic grills will ever fall out or come off on their own. Sometimes Facebook does open up on its own though, and we'll just exit out of that slice of dark web as quick as possible. The sides of the ROG Phone 3 are made from aluminum. You can see the shiny metal under the black anodizing. Same goes for the power button and volume rocker. This gaming phone also has non-mechanical capacitive triggers at the corners that can be programmed for different games. The top of the phone is blank. The left side does have a SIM card tray and an accessory port for plugging in the cooling fan and controllers. One cool thing is that the ROG 2 accessories are mostly all compatible with this ROG 3, so you won't need to buy an entirely new set of accessories if you already own the 2. Thumbs up for that. There is no built-in headphone jack anymore though, just the bottom USB-C port. The physical footprint of this phone is not to be underestimated. People always know that the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 Plus is one of the largest phones in existence, but this ROG 3 has a screen that's 0.3 inches larger than my Note 10 Plus. It's a big boy. The back of the phone is entirely made of glass, and at first glance I initially thought that this design on the edge was just part of that glass design, a nostalgic 2D representation of the former 3D metal hump, since the screws are flat like a facade. But as I look closer, those screws and that design is actually real. The rainbow reflective glass is actually a window into the phone itself. The ROG Phone 3 is transparent, and we're not looking at artwork on the top. We're looking inside at a metal heatsink, which means that this time around that metal might actually be good for something. The teardown of this phone is really going to be interesting. The cameras have 2 flashes, one flush with the glass and one underneath the glass, right next to the 3 cameras. A 64 megapixel main camera, along with a 13 megapixel ultra wide, and then a 12 megapixel macro camera in the center, which is totally fine. Any camera is still a good camera. There's nothing wrong with small units. I'm just saying, it would be a real shame if suddenly there were a lot of I love macro camera comments on MKBHD's ROG video. One of the most important aspects of gaming though is the screen. This is a 6.6 inch massive 1080p display with a 144 Hz refresh rate, which out of the gaming phones is pretty phenomenal. It is AMOLED and starting to go white after about 30 seconds under the heat from my lighter, and did not recover. Now personally, I enjoy gaming phones, since they are usually the ones pushing mobile technology and innovating the most. And while this phone is the most powerful in a lot of different categories, that doesn't mean a lot if it fails in the basics. And one of those basics is fingerprint reading. I can't even set my fingerprint on the ROG 3 because I was working on a car earlier, and my finger isn't 100% clean. Washing my hands every time I want to unlock my phone just isn't real feasible. So this fingerprint scanner is not going to work for me. I can't test the fingerprint durability if the fingerprint doesn't work in the first place. It's time for the bin test. This ROG 3 weighs about 44 grams more than my Note 10 Plus. For Americans, that's about the equivalent weight of a golf ball. And the structural integrity matches that heavier weight, with almost no flex from the front or the back. The ROG Phone 3 survives my bin test. It'll be interesting to see where it's hiding that extra 44 grams of material inside when we do the teardown. And more importantly, we'll get to see how transparent that rear window really is. Now, it's time to talk a little bit more about that Tesla Model S performance giveaway. Like I said earlier, Omaze is a company that works with creators to support nonprofits. And for each donation made, you get entered to win super large prizes. In our case, it's a Tesla Model S Performance and $20,000 in cash. The nonprofit we are supporting is called Give Power. There are over 2.2 billion people in the world who don't have access to clean water, and Give Power is able to provide electricity, clean drinking water, and power to those people who need it. Give Power can also take the salt out of the oceans and make drinking water or water for crops for people who live in dry environments. For your chance to win a Tesla Model S Performance and $20,000 in cash while simultaneously supporting a good cause, just head to omaze.com/Jerry. And by using my code, you get an additional 50 entries into the giveaway. Huge thanks to Omaze for putting this on and supporting nonprofits like Give Power and making things a little more interesting for the people who donate. What are your predictions for what's underneath the back glass in the ROG 3? Do you think it's a facade or do you think it's the real deal? Let me know down in the comments. If you have any other questions, leave them down there in the comments as well.